So good morning. Here we are with Hughes, our current fellow from Australia. You are from Melbourne.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, good. So you have now been in New York about 3.5 weeks. And my first question is, what are you thinking about in terms of the sort of comparison? You're here in New York and you're seeing these things. What's your state of mind?
I guess I think a lot about opportunity. Like, there's so many people here that there's kind of a niche or an outlet for everybody's, wants and desires. And I guess that probably comes from there being so many people here. And that's really nice. I guess, back home, I think about back home, a lot of businesses or groups or particular interests can't be supported because we just don't have the numbers. So there's little things like synthesizer shops or, really obscure music or obscure types of history. Things can be supported because there's quite a number of people that are interested in them. So that's, I guess I'm thinking a lot about that. I'm thinking a lot about New Yorker's relationship to history, which seems really strong to me. I'm not familiar with that. Our history is not kind of celebrated in the same way as it is here, and it's really, I'm quite interested in history, so I've found it really interesting and engaging, so that's been really good.
Well, it's an interesting thing in the US. We're 200 years old, and for most of the time we felt, I think, like a new burgeoning nation. Now it feels like we're starting to keep history. We're more concerned with retaining buildings like we didn't with Penn Station, for example. I saw you reference that. And I think we're kind of turning into an older country now, with that sense of history. So tell me one of the things that you found most visually compelling. Parks versus
architecture. Yeah, architecture. I guess the layout of the city. I mean, when I went up the Empire State Building, I just thought, it'll just be a view of the city, but it wasn't. It was so much more spectacular than I thought it would be.
How so?
Just, I guess the architecture really stood out and you could see everything really clearly. I think maybe because of the grid, you could kind of locate yourself, and I don't know, it was just this kind of huddled together kind of amazing group of buildings and kind of town planning. It was just really impressive, and I wasn't expecting it, so yeah.
So give me one of your anxieties before you came here, something you were worried about.
I think, just anything new. I'm just really used to revolving in the same area of Melbourne, hanging out with the same people. So just anything new. So coming here, just catching the train or figuring out how to get from A to B, or that had a lot of anxiety for me. I would just overthink it, and slowly over the past 3.5 weeks, I've learnt to kind of shut down that part of my anxiety and maybe just move forward. Sometimes I'll be in the apartment, I'll just be just leave the apartment, and so that's really helpful. Yeah, especially because I'm going into the unknown, or so I'm sort of I'll be overthinking it, and it's all just kind of fears or, suppositions about what's going to happen, but I really don't know what's going to happen, so it's shut up and just go. Yeah.
It's interesting that Americans see Australia as kind of a California US. Do you see any similarities socially or great discrepancies
between New York and Melbourne?
Just kind of navigating around.
I guess I think people in New York tend to have more enthusiasm and maybe more get up and go, and there's sort of possibilities, and I feel like in Melbourne it's a bit more low key, and like especially in the arts it's very I don't know, it's kind of not as extrovertedly passionate, can I say. It's more sort of like, yeah, we're gonna do this and it's gonna be really exciting, whatever. Whereas here it's like, I don't know, it's much more, there's a lot more, I can't think of the word, but
Energy.
enthusiasm and energy for possibilities, I guess, yeah.
So if you go home and you bring that kind of enthusiasm, is it going to freak your friends out?
Probably, yeah, I would say so. But I mean, I think I've always been quite uncool because I am a little bit enthusiastic, but so I might be just a time to kind of negotiate between, you know, the Melbourne vibe and the little bit of New York vibe that I'm taking back with me.
Okay, so the California laid-back Australian vibe is different than the New York.
Yeah, I think if that's what California's about, then yes, we're definitely easygoing and laid back, yeah.
And what about the atmosphere of the city? You're sort of talking about that now, but Melbourne, how many people are in the city?
That's a good question. Can someone Google that? I don't know.
Okay, well, let's assume that there are 5 million people, moderate size.
Sounds good.
We're about 8 million here between New York and the suburb, not suburbs, but the boroughs.
There's 4 million in Melbourne.
Oh, okay. So you've been to all 5 boroughs, I think. Any observations about similarities or differences to home? And does Manhattan feel more like home, or Brooklyn?
I think probably parts of Brooklyn feel more like the area where I live, Fitzroy, but I find it really interesting that even on Manhattan you can walk 2 blocks and the whole community will change. So I mean, like, changes don't happen that fast in Melbourne. Like, it's a lot more, there's a lot more space, and things are really sprawled out, even in the kind of in the more urban built up areas. So they sort of tend to go on for a lot longer, whereas here everything sort of flicks around and changes really quickly. All those small little suburbs, I guess, are they called suburbs in Manhattan? I don't know what they're called.
Not really. The periphery of the more active areas, maybe. The suburbs, really, we call outside of New York City.
Okay.
Westchester, things like that.
Well, I guess, like, you know, the differences between, you know, the Upper East Side and then going up to, I can't remember, but like above, you know, just above Central Park, like the difference is like this, you know, like
Cloisters area.
Yeah. Like, you can turn like a corner and then the demographic is completely different, the architecture is completely different, you know, so that is really interesting. And I guess hard to kind of figure out where you are because there's just like these little pockets of difference everywhere.
You didn't use tall buildings as your reference point?
I'm really bad at geography, Stephen, but don't tell anyone.
No, I read about it in your... you did a fair amount of investigating.
Investigating...
Of going to places you didn't necessarily mean...
Oh, yeah.
What's the word?
I'm a professional in getting lost.
No, that's good. And we rely on that. And in New York, it's a safe thing and a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
Give me one comparison, sensibility, US to Australia, and one difference that you're feeling. Are we more materialistic, less materialistic?
Like, the food has a lot of ingredients. I mean, I hate to harp on about the food, and I've had a little problem with the food, but it seems like there's a lot of I mean, like you sort of, if you're going to make a potato chip, you're going to put like 10 extra things in there. And so to me, like I guess I'm quite interested in food and I think about what I eat or whatever. So it's been interesting. I find that that's quite different here, or maybe it's just that I can't negotiate all the brands, like everything is alien to me, whereas back home maybe I'm more familiar with what is maybe a little bit purer or I don't know. And also I thought, this is going to sound really bad, but I thought people would be like really a lot more fashionable or fashion forward here, but everyone's wearing puffer jackets and like leather jackets, and everyone's kind of like, it's like half of New York is wearing Nikes. Yeah, there's a lot of trainers here.
I think we used to be more formal, and in a way, if you're drawing this as a comparison to home, because one of the things that happens to me, if I write to somebody in Germany, and their name is Rolf, and I write, "Dear Rolf, Stephen Rand," it comes back, "Herr Rand." But when I write to somebody in Australia, and if I have, Stephen Rand at the end, it comes back, "Hi, Steve."
Yeah.
So there's a level of, I don't know, familiarity or ease that seems to be in the Australian sensibility.
I think there's like a lot of similarities, definitely. I mean, it's not, most of the time I was just thinking everything's the same, except I just don't recognise the brands of things or the street names, there's so many similarities. Especially, I guess, a lot of small businesses, or there's a lot of kind of do-it-yourself kind of businesses here, and that's really similar to home. And
like what?
I guess like sort of independent retailers.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, small businesses, and I guess that's really, it seems to be like a large force. Like there's a lot, like those types of small businesses, I guess, especially in Brooklyn, new businesses that are looking at, say, single products, or just finding a product that's really amazing and interesting and ethically sourced or whatever. So that's really similar to Melbourne as well.
Same kind of entrepreneurial sensibility.
Yes, yeah.
So are you going back with a renewed energy to do something?
I think from the residency, like there's been a lot of emphasis on philanthropy, and I've found that I guess it's reinvigorated the way I feel about philanthropy, and that it's incredibly rewarding. And I think I would maybe like to drive that forward more. Like I already do some philanthropic things, and I would like to kind of maybe expand on that, get more people involved, because it is a really I don't know, it's a really amazing thing, and it's like you're not relying on the government or the state to kind of dole out something. You're just kind of driving something forward and doing it yourself and helping other people in the process and creating something new. And I just think that that's incredibly inspiring. Like I've been really inspired by that, and I don't know if I'm just getting this kind of like segregated view of the people that I'm interacting with, probably, but I don't care. Like it's been great. It's been really cool. Yeah.
Your volunteering work here, tell me about it.
Well, the first one I had the food pantry in Brooklyn. That was just really cool. Like just being somewhere where I would never be. It just felt like if someone shot a dart at a map or something, and then suddenly I just kind of appeared. I was just like, what the hell is going on? But all the people there, the people who were kind of who I was helping a little bit, not very much, but I was handing out food to, were just like incredibly charismatic and really upbeat, and it was just like this lovely community vibe, even though people are sort of doing it really tough. And it was just I made friends there. I was talking to the people I was working with, and it was just sort of incredibly rewarding. I just walked away feeling like I did something good. I mean, I felt like I got more out of it than the people who were just there to get food, which was kind of weird and made me wrong. But anyway, yeah.
Well, it's not wrong because we intentionally are putting you into positions that you may not have been. So it is an educational opportunity for you as well. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Did you find New York to be friendly?
Yes, I would say yes. Generally, not at rush hour on the subway, but every other time, yes. And out on the street, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And let's go back to food a little bit more. Did you try anything? Did you eat things that you otherwise wouldn't have eaten because of the ethnic diversity of our city?
I did. I ate more Mexican food than I would normally eat. But no, I think Melbourne is pretty diverse with the food. So there kind of wasn't really anything. The things that I didn't eat, like pizza and like hot dogs and pretzels, like I still haven't tried those. And they're pretty synonymous with New York. But so, I still have to try that.
Well, the pretzel you didn't eat on the first day that you got here is probably still there.
Yeah, right.
So you'll have a second opportunity for it. Okay. Talk to me about some of the people that we've had you meet.
I guess the people were a really big highlight as well. Because you're sort of alone doing things, like the opportunity to sit down and talk to somebody was just a really great relief to begin with. But then all the people were, philanthropic, or they were giving their time to me, or, sharing something really amazing that they were doing. So it was just really, everyone was super intelligent, super engaging, and like super lovely. Like there was not, I didn't have a bad experience with anybody. And just so many successful people, and people from different sort of echelons that I would not normally have contact with. So that was, just another moment kind of going, what's going on? Like, I'm not sort of pinching myself going, yeah.
Well, one of the main ideas behind the program is that the art world has kind of become very closed and incestuous around the world. You can go anywhere and you're in the art world, but we don't get out of the art world as much as we should. And a lot of the program is meant to break down that feeling of exclusivity that we kind of develop as the artist, being more of an observer than a participator, for example. And we made you participate in a lot of things.
I think I'm generally kind of outgoing, so I am sort of stuck in that bubble at home, like I completely agree with you. But I guess, I don't know, like it was all, I just felt a bit like school camp sometimes, and then guides, like I don't know if you have girl guides over here, because like I was just, planing a piece of wood, and then I was like digging a hole and, doing so many different things. I guess I did feel like a kid again, trying out all these different things. But what was the question? I'm thinking about boat building now. I'm totally distracted.
Okay, well, the main thing that we have you do things that are outside of the art world, things that you wouldn't normally do, because we're hoping that you're going to take something from many of the things and incorporate it somehow into your work, into your life or something.
Yeah, I think I probably will, go home and go to more lectures or go to more sort of activities that are outside of art. And I think it's really helped me to kind of be able to talk to people that are outside the art world as well, and maybe relate. And so I think that's kind of been incredibly helpful. Yeah.
We're sometimes not accused, but as if we're not kind of helping the artist, because we're not making promotional appointments for you and doing the typical kinds of things. We honestly believe that if we give you more opportunities, more experiences that you potentially incorporate into your work, that A, you will be more interesting to people that you talk to because you just have more things to talk about. If they find you more interesting, they will give you more opportunity. So we think we're doing kind of a long-term opening and broadening of people's horizon that really seems to get reinforced by us.
Yeah, I think, I think it's completely true. And I mean, if you can do all these things and, you know, you're coming from an art background, I mean, and that's your department, surely you can do amazing things there already. So, I mean, I think it's really beneficial to have a break from the art world. I mean, the art world can be incredibly exhausting. You're producing all the time. You know, maybe you don't have a lot of money, or, you know, and you're just burning the candle at both ends. So, I mean, it's so amazing to be able to be plucked out of that and then just not have to worry about it and just do completely different things. It's so luxurious. And I mean, I don't know if it's just me particularly, but I'm quite sort of interested in everything generally. So, I mean, I haven't really questioned it. I've just been like, what's on the list today? Yeah.
I don't think that's so unusual. Even people that are in the program who might say to us they aren't interested in everything find that a lot of the things that they do really are.
Yeah, yeah.
So we say to people, you will be bored, lonely, depressed, and exhilarated and excited. Give me an example of each.
I don't know if I've been bored. I don't think I've been bored.
Okay.
Yeah. Lonely, definitely. But, you know, I have this really great phone account where I can call home. So, I mean, I have abused it. You know, I've been calling home every day.
We call ours Skype. I don't know what you use.
Oh, right. Yeah, well, I have Skype as well. I have everything, Messenger, Skype. It was all in place when I arrived. But, so lonely, what were the other ones?
Lonely, bored, depressed, exhilarated, and excited.
I think I got really exhilarated about house museums when I went to go see that Annika's Guide to House Museum book talk.
Yeah,
I mean, what
yeah.
a bizarre thing to be excited about, but they were so enthusiastic. You know, if somebody is, it's like, it doesn't matter what people are saying, it's sort of like how they're saying, and these two people were like, it was infectious. So I was just like, house museums, and, you know, I was like walking down the street going, house museums, you know, yeah. So, and I have seen a lot of house museums while I've been here. Yeah, so...
We
yeah.
like the little idiosyncratic things that are on a human scale, because everything now, not everything, but many things are so big, whether museums, that you don't really feel a connection with them. But these house museums, aside from whatever they're showing, there's that idiosyncratic thing of the person who put it together, the person who's taking you around.
Yeah, they're very like, they can be really hit and miss, but they're so interesting because they're very personal, and it's like you're kind of in this space. So you're not, it's not like a cold white cube like a gallery or, you know, a museum. There's a lot of decal information in the museums here. Like, it seems exhibit. I mean, the museums are good. I'm not saying that they're not good, but there's a lot of text on the walls, heaps of text. Yeah.
Well, we have about 200 museums in New York.
Where do they fit, Stephen? 200. It's crazy.
Well, we have an interesting tax system. Not to get too far into it, but most people think that the U.S. doesn't support the arts at all. Our tax system allows anybody to set up a not-for-profit, and if you can get enough people to support you, then the IRS sees it as a legitimate enterprise. And then rather than giving the money to the government to then give it to arts organizations, we give it directly to the arts organizations and we get a credit on our tax bill.
Yeah.
So what that means is that in many ways it avoids the politics. So we can have a buggy museum, we can have a museum about anything, because people aren't trying to get government funding directly from the government, and they don't encounter the same kind of politics that is attached to that. So we actually support the arts a lot in the US because of that deferred tax situation.
I'm all for the house. I mean, more museums. It's a good thing. I love a museum. Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about people. You said that you found Americans or New Yorkers very different, actually, from Americans. New York is kind of its own little thing. You went to Washington.
Yeah.
Give me a compare and contrast.
Well, I got there and I met up with Casey Smith, and he immediately told me to slow down, which was really hard to do after sort of walking around the city here for 3 weeks or 2 weeks. I'm not sure how long I've been here by that stage, but yeah, it was definitely slower. There's a lot more sky, and yeah, just I guess Washington reminded me of home a lot more. Yeah.
And politics.
Yes.
What do you think about us? You're here at an interesting time because you're watching the primary for the next election. So you're watching our Hillary and Bernie and Donald.
Well, I mean, I couldn't figure out how to turn the TV on, so I haven't watched any television, and I haven't bought a newspaper, so I kind of have been a little cut off. But I mean, I do think it's sort of playing out in a really similar way to Australian politics. I just sort of feel Trump is the Greek chorus, and surely he's not going to get in. I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to espouse my political views on the
We
video.
don't know. Many of us did not think he would get to where he is, and the combination that many people don't like Hillary. We don't know what will happen. Stranger things have happened, and we've watched them in other countries where people have gotten elected because of the opposition to the other, whatever it is. But so your sense of atmosphere then is not particularly affected by
No, I haven't
politics here.
really spoken to anybody about it. I mean, I think I've had a few kind of offhand conversations, but not for very long. And, I mean, I guess probably disappointing that I haven't kind of paid more attention. I did read an article in the New Yorker about Trump's wife.
Which one?
That's it. Yeah.
The current one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so give me an example of an activity that you didn't want to do and then found that you really enjoyed. Improv.
It's like because no one wants to do that. Improv, I didn't want to do, and I did not enjoy, Stephen, so that I can't submit that. But
It made you feel too self-conscious?
oh yeah, like this kind of mental, physical disconnect was just all of a sudden extremely obvious for everybody else in the room as well as myself. So I was like, I can't think and move my body at the same time.
So what personal thing went through your head when you left? Did you feel that at some point in the future you had to accomplish this, or was it going back there?
No, I think, like you can't be great at everything. So I'm happy to accept defeat on the acting front. But I guess I felt really Like I tried to cave in on one of the tasks, and the guy running the class, I can't remember his name, but he was incredibly persuasive. And then I was, I'm like, when in Rome, like you just have to do it, Kezo, talking to myself in the third person. So I got up, and this other woman had sort of said, no, I'm not going to do it. So we had sort of joined forces in revolt, and he sort of started working on us, and I was like, okay, I will join the group again, and it was just another massive fail. But I guess I felt good for making an idiot out of myself.
Yeah. So what do you think she did wrong that people had to send her there?
I don't know. I did speak to her at the beginning of the class, and she just wanted to try something different. But I think it was maybe a little bit more intense than she was planning. Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah. It was kind of overwhelming. But yeah.
So when we have you meet with people here, we try to keep it from being the normal dog and pony show where they tell you what they're doing and you go, oh, that's very interesting. We try to get them to do something with you rather than do that talk. An example of something like that, either Amelia or any of the people that you...
Yeah, Amelia was great, like going to the criminal courts. It was like slowed down Judge Judy. It was really without the kind of charisma. But that was really interesting. And then she sort of took me to, a restaurant that I would never find, taught me how to eat dumplings, the dumplings are different over here. And, that was really cool. Vegan as well, like we went and had coffee, which seems like a really obvious thing, like just going to the corner store or something, but going and having coffee. And he sort of told me, he's like, I'm having a cold brew. I didn't even know what a cold brew was. He took me to good coffee. The coffee was like priced really well, like it wasn't crazy Starbucks prices. So I mean, that was incredibly enlightening, and it was just going to a coffee shop. So yeah, I think even small things like are really interesting when you get to sort of have another person's perspective, or a person you don't know, or someone who's really interesting doing a banal thing can be amazing.
Well, it's an interesting thing for us and for the people that participate, because when you put two people together and they're not really sure what they're going to talk about or what they're going to do, and there's that weird kind of anxiety a bit about meeting somebody. Maybe you try and think of something to say before you meet them, much like I do with these, so that the space isn't there, and then you do it and you find that all of a sudden it kind of opens up and things kind of suggest other things to talk about.
Yeah, I really enjoy meeting people. I think I like asking questions. I'm a big question asker. Yeah, so if there's a gap, I'm right in there asking questions.
What part of our program are you going to try to encourage at home? Like, will you say to somebody, one of your friends, let's go to the court building today?
Yeah, so many things. I just think I'm so lucky to have seen all these different things. I can't, no one would ever... It's like living 2 or 3 years of New York in 2 or 3 weeks or 4 weeks.
We've been accused of that.
Yeah. So I would do any of those things again. Maybe not the acting, and maybe there's 1 or 2 things I wouldn't do again, but generally, like boat building. What was I doing there? I was building a boat. It's so random. But I would totally do it again.
Well, all of these things are on some level similar to the improvisation, but you've got a structure other than the improvisation to be working on. So you know nothing about a boat, but you're working on a boat. You may know nothing about another aspect of volunteer stuff, but you're doing it. And in a way, the improv sort of takes all of those and focuses it. So I would say to you, that's what you should do when you go.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay.
An improv group.
An
3 of your friends. Come famous.
I'll consider it.
Yeah. Okay. You saw a therapist while you were here. This started because we were thinking about interesting things for our folks. And while some people come from places where therapy is a socially accepted thing, a lot of people on our program don't. So it gives them the opportunity, in many cases, to find out that they are not crazy. Because as a creative person, sometimes you think maybe you are a little bit, and in societies where you're not encouraged to talk about those feelings, you don't get to reinforce it talking to somebody else. Some people bring issues, other people find it's just an opportunity to kind of talk about yourself and listen to yourself, as you're talking about being in the city. And people will often tell us that the two things they found most rewarding were the volunteer work and seeing a therapist, which is really interesting to us considering it's almost the least expected part of a residency or anything like this. Both seem to be, from your journal, important aspects of your being here.
I think, just having the space to kind of, vent everything out in a place where there's no judgment is incredibly helpful, because otherwise you're just sort of ruminating around with your own thoughts and you're kind of sort of isolated, I guess. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't particularly feel, I guess we all need therapy all the time, but I know there's some moments where it was just incredibly helpful, and then there was other moments that sort of brought things up that I sort of thought, I have to do work on this, which was a big surprise. That was like an added extra pressure almost, to just be like, okay, well, I'm here,
yeah.
But then you've also got some issues and that you weren't, like, I was not expecting. So, but I mean, just, yeah, like, what a luxury to have that space and time to just, be emotional if you have to be emotional, or just to unload everything. It was really beneficial.
So if you were to give a subsequent fellow advice about the program, what would it be?
Just don't stop thinking. Just don't think and move forward. And just move out the door. Just go. I would just be like, just go. And I think, that's pretty much what Kieran said to me when I was coming over as well, who's done the residency a long time ago.
Right.
He was like...
It was different. I mean, similar, but even more draconian now.
Well, he just said, don't miss out on anything. And I think my advice would be the same. Just forget about all your hang-ups and reasons why you can't do things, and just do things and just go with that.
What would you tell us about the program? Recommendations? See, we want you to be kind of lonely because we avoid this now in society. We pick up our phone, we go somewhere, we call somebody, and it seems like a lot of the creative thinking and introverted thinking is really important. And this certainly gives people a lot of time to kind of think, about what they're doing. Generally in the program, the first week, people will be, what am I doing here? I mean, I was happy at home, things were fine, and, the second week, there is some sense of familiarity that going to the same place for breakfast or something, you just start to get a little comfortable. And the third week, you're kind of feeling like a New Yorker. And then the fourth week, it's like, oh my God, it's over. And there's that sense of, the whole kind of journey thing. Did you find that you had similar sensibilities?
Yeah, I think the first week I was just on adrenaline because the program sort of started immediately after I'd arrived. So I was really, I was so hyped up and, it sort of got like run down but it was just go, go, go. And then the second week, I think I just became really tired, like exhausted. And then the third week I kind of settled in and felt, like everything was more familiar. But that's when I started getting lost on the subway. Just like relax, just give a little, and then that subway it takes away from you. But and now sort of this week it's over. So I felt pretty much exactly as you were describing. But as far as advice, like I mean, if I had to give any feedback for the program, I don't know. Like I think I'd have to think about it seriously. Have to think about it. Yeah.
Would you like to see more meetings with people?
I don't know. There's a lot of everything. I guess there's a lot. Like for me, I mean, for me it was tiring and exhausting. But then I didn't want to miss out on anything. So I don't know. I guess like 4 weeks of exhaustion is a small price to pay, really, a very small price.
We figure, some people will say, there's so much, you're going all the time. We kind of figure that we want to keep that level of activity, and then when you go home, or in this case as you perhaps travel about, lots of things keep coming back in a way. You kind of roll the trip again through your head. And we kind of think that's an effective and valuable way to do it. Something else we often say to people, because before they come, they often want to travel more afterwards. And we often will say to people, might sound like a good idea now, but you're now going to go 3 weeks?
Another 4 weeks, yeah. But I think the space will be very different because it's not, I mean, I'll be traveling with someone and it'll be a completely different
It'll
mindset.
Be a tourist.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. And I mean, it's incredibly casual, yeah. So, I mean, I do feel like I do understand that feeling of just kind of wanting to go, like I'm ready to go home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I completely do understand that. But I guess, it's hard to resist like such a long flight, a lot of money to get here because we're so far away. So, I sort of did want to, take this and then expand on it a little bit.
Has he been to the US?
Troy, no. Oh, he's been to LA, I think, a long time ago.
So effectively, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, it's really great just to be able to, like, I think we're going to see a lot more architecture and a lot more sort of history-related things now that I've had this experience in New York, so.
Do you have any questions for us? Why we do anything? Where we're going, I don't know.
I don't think so. I think it's something I have to think about. Yeah, it's a sort of serious question that I would really need some time with.
Okay. Okay. So I've gone through my people, places, things. It's been a pleasure.
It's been amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And that's a wrap.